Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a close look at a really fascinating stack of material exploring recent actions by former U.S. President Donald Trump.
Mm.
Our mission really is to unpack the complexities of his trade policies, his geopolitical moves, and, understand their far-reaching impact.
Both economically and diplomatically.
Exactly. Globally, but with a specific focus today on India.
Which is a key relationship, obviously.
Absolutely. And it's quite a journey we're embarking on because right out of the gate, the research highlights something pretty striking.
Okay.
The sheer scope of these aggressive tariff measures. I mean, we're talking about tariffs being reimposed and even expanded on over 90 countries.
Wow, over 90. That's broad.
It really is. Think about that for a second. That's a massive global footprint. For instance, the analysis points to India facing tariffs up to 50%.
50%.
Yeah, China at 30%, Canada 35%, and Brazil also potentially seeing tariffs as high as 50%.
Those are significant numbers across major economies.
Right. But here's where it gets particularly interesting for our focus today. India isn't just caught in this sort of general sweep.
Okay, so there's something specific.
Yes. The material specifically details an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods.
On top of the other potential tariffs.
On top. And it's directly linked, according to the sources, to India's continued purchase of Russian oil.
Ah, so a direct policy link there, not just general trade friction.
Precisely. And this isn't a small thing. It immediately threatens a staggering $190 billion in U.S.-India bilateral trade.
$190 billion. That certainly puts a strain on the relationship.
A significant strain on what has been, a strategically vital relationship.
Well, what's truly compelling here, I think, is recognizing that these aren't merely economic figures on a spreadsheet, are they?
No, not at all.
These aggressive tariff measures are, in essence, powerful diplomatic tools. They really carry significant implications for how nations interact on the global stage.
Right.
If you think about it, tariffs can act like a strategic poker chip, signaling intent, maybe forcing a reevaluation of alliances or trade dependencies.
That's a good way to put it.
So as we delve deeper today, we'll explore not just what these actions entail, but crucially, their multifaceted consequences.
For global trade alliance.
Exactly, for global trade, for those long-standing alliances, and especially, as you said, for a major, rapidly growing economy like India.
Okay, let's really dig into this then. What the various articles seem to make clear is that globally we're seeing pretty massive turbulence in international trade.
Disruption.
It's not just a small ripple, it's a significant disruption. And accompanying this, we're also observing a very clear rise in economic nationalism.
Yeah, that's definitely a trend.
With what the research calls protectionist sentiment becoming, well, increasingly prevalent across the globe.
Right.
For you, listening, that essentially means countries are prioritizing their own economic interests, often using tools like these tariffs to shield domestic industries from foreign competition.
Precisely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these tariffs aren't simply about goods crossing borders, are they?
No, seems much more strategic.
The analysis suggests they're being explicitly deployed as diplomatic leverage, which, raises an important question.
Me too.
What happens to established international partnerships when economic ties become effectively weaponized?
Yeah, that's the core issue.
We're already seeing evidence, according to these sources, that this approach is weakening some long-standing alliances.
And the markets.
And as you might expect, financial markets are reacting negatively to this uncertainty. Major indices are showing declines. Volatility is up.
Okay, so when we zero in on India specifically, what kind of pressures are emerging from this shift according to the material?
Well, the information we have details several key areas of concern for India.
Okay.
First, India's crucial export sectors, think textiles, jewelry, pharmaceuticals, they're highlighted as being at significant risk.
And those are huge sectors for India. So for an economy like India's, which relies so heavily on international markets for these goods, I mean, how big of an impact could that actually be?
It's potentially substantial, really substantial. These sectors employ millions of people.
Right.
And they're significant foreign exchange earners. So any substantial disruption could have ripple effects throughout the entire Indian economy.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
The material also points to what's being termed strategic realignment.
Strategic realignment.
Given strained U.S. relations, India might actually consider deepening its ties with countries like Russia and China.
Interesting. So reacting to the pressure from the U.S. by looking elsewhere.
Potentially. This isn't just an economic adjustment, you see. It's a potential geopolitical pivot.
Which could significantly alter global power dynamics.
Absolutely. When a major player like India starts reevaluating its strategic partnerships, it resonates far beyond just trade numbers. It changes the whole board, so to speak.
And then, of course, there are the direct economic concerns you mentioned. The data indicates reciprocal tariffs from India could lead to a reduction in its GDP growth.
That's what some analyses suggest, yes, by about 0.6% potentially, with possible inflationary effects as well.
Okay, 0.6%. For an economy the size of India, what does that actually translate to in terms of real-world impact? Beyond just a number on a spreadsheet.
Well, to put that 0.6% into perspective, for India's massive and rapidly growing economy, that's roughly equivalent to billions of dollars in lost economic output. Billions.
Right. That's not trivial.
Not at all. That kind of reduction can directly impact job creation, investment in new businesses, maybe even government spending on vital social programs or infrastructure projects. It's not just a blip, it's a tangible hit.
And it sounds like this isn't just being discussed in economic circles.
No, and that's another key point. Beyond the numbers, the research shows that criticism of U.S. policies is growing, becoming increasingly vocal in both Indian media and political circles.
So a public opinion shift, too.
Yes, which signals a broader dissatisfaction, a pushback. This whole situation seems to be compelling nations, especially those heavily reliant on trade like India, to seriously consider economic reform and, frankly, greater self-reliance.
Even before maybe significant retaliatory measures fully take effect.
Exactly. The pressure itself is prompting that kind of strategic thinking.
Wow. What an eye-opening journey through this material. It really brings into sharp focus the multifaceted impact of these recent actions.
It really does.
We've seen the clear disruption to international trade, that undeniable rise of economic nationalism where countries are, putting their own interests first.
That protectionist sentiment we talked about.
Yeah, and the fraying of long-standing alliances as tariffs are increasingly used as you put it, diplomatic leverage.
Mm-hmm.
All of this, of course, contributing to significant market volatility, with major indices declining, as we noted.
The uncertainty factor is huge.
And for India specifically, the pressures just seem immense. The risks to vital export sectors like textiles, jewelry, pharmaceuticals are palpable.
Key industries under threat.
There's the very real potential for that strategic realignment you mentioned, pushing India to potentially deepen ties with nations like Russia and China.
A major geopolitical consideration.
And those significant economic concerns, like that possible 0.6% reduction in GDP growth, with its inflationary effects potentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's really striking to see how public and political opinion within India seems to be shifting too.
With that increasing criticism of these U.S. policies.
Exactly.
Indeed. And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these outcomes connect to the larger narrative of policy reform pressures.
How so?
Well, these actions are clearly driving calls for economic reform and increased self-reliance in trade-dependent economies globally, particularly within India itself, based on these sources.
So it's acting as a catalyst in a way.
It really is. It's a kind of global wake-up call, in a way, for nations to reevaluate their vulnerabilities and their dependencies in the current system.
Makes sense.
Which raises, I think, an important question for you, the listener, to consider as we wrap up.
Sure.
Given these widespread effects we've discussed, from disrupted trade and market volatility to strained diplomatic ties and this renewed push for national self-reliance, how might these recent actions permanently reshape the global economic order?
And the strategic alliances between nations.
Precisely. Prompting perhaps a fundamental reevaluation of long-term international partnerships. Something to definitely think about.